Yeah, welcome, beloveds. Hi, welcome to the Sacred Nectar Podcast, Episode 2. And thank you for joining me on this journey of exploring this space. I have been brewing this podcast episode for, it feels like over a month, and just haven't sat down to do it. And so now I am, and here I am, and I'm hoping that you all are doing well and living in abundance and love. And so I just wanted to talk about a few things this time. This episode, which I don't know what I'm going to name yet, but I wanted to talk about breath as a sacred nectar, and one other, which involves the often unspoken ingredients of food. Some call it cooking with devotion, some call it blessing your food. Various religious traditions bless the food or say grace. Let's dive into these really interesting things. The first one that I really wanted to talk about was breath, though, and as much as it is something that we do every day that we should be super familiar with, and I mean, it shouldn't be hard for most of us. It is. Breath is such a sacred nectar for me. I don't know exactly where my breath awareness, breath work, breath conscious journey began. I don't know if it was around the time I birthed my son, or if it was past that, or maybe even before that. I really can't remember in this moment, but somewhere along my journey, breath work has started to call to me, and it's mostly called breath work. I do feel like sometimes it's work, and sometimes it's play, and sometimes it's just medicine, just really nourishing medicine. A few of the things that I wanted to share around the breath that is sacred nectar to me is just this idea of the fact that signifies our life. Like, that's really precious. So if you're breathing, that means you have life. And if you find a creature and they're breathing, that means they have life. So it's part of something that's like really kind of elemental. And we know that, like people take CPR classes to help resuscitate so that somebody can have their breath back, and different things like that. But we know how important the breath is, and yet it's kind of like mostly ignored, and so many people actually breathe what's considered to be wrong, which is also really, really interesting to me. And I think for the first probably 15, maybe 18, maybe 25 years of my life, I know I breathed wrong, 100%. So I breathed what is considered wrong breath. The wrong way to breathe is when you inhale, you actually suck in your stomach. So you contract in a way instead of expanding. So when you inhale, naturally we should expand. We're filling our body with air. So it should, start in our lungs and, cascade down into our abdomen if we're breathing a full breath and breathing it correctly. And I breathed in a very contracted form. Probably largely to do with my childhood and various traumas and social stigmas that I lived with every day. But I breathed in a contracted form. So I would suck in my stomach on an inhale and relax on an exhale. And while yes, you should relax on an exhale, your body should also expand when you inhale, and that's kind of basic. Your body should definitely, your belly specifically, your lower abdomen should specifically expand on your inhale. And then relax, maybe not necessarily deflate, but just relax upon exhale. So for the first 15 years of my life or so, I just breathed wrong. And then somewhere breathwork came into my sphere, and my journey with getting to know my breath has been really beautiful for me. And I'm super thankful for it. It has helped me with my parenting. It has helped me with my anxiety control. It has helped me with so many hard circumstances and situations that are uncomfortable. Just learning to be present with myself and my breath. And I heard once that when you're breathing, if you can get into this space, it's a really beautiful space, just to feel like the silky, sacred energy of the breath, like just infusing into your body through your nose or through your mouth or however you decide to try this. It's a really beautiful experience to just think about of like, this is like the most sensual and sacred thing that we can do is take a breath and be present, and to just be present with ourselves and to give ourselves that space and that honor, kind of. So I am just super excited about this, and that I came across it, and that I can expand into it, because as long as I'm alive, my breath patterns will be ever changing, just like nature, right? Like nothing's the same. Everything's always growing and flourishing and blooming in new ways, and every life circumstance will bring me new energy to do this, and new chances to explore this part of my being, my breath. I'm going to refer to the Bible again as a sacred book to many, and it's a book that I grew up reading, and I really like this idea that God breathed life into us, and it's in the Bible, in Genesis somewhere, that God formed us from the dirt or the dust of the earth and then breathed life into us. And that's kind of precious to think about, that divinity breathed life into us. I don't fully understand the universe, and I don't think anybody does. And I'm okay with that, like very comfortable actually not understanding the universe, because I think it would be too much to understand. But I feel the sacred energy in knowing that my breath is what gives me life, and that if you look at it from any other perspective as well, like the life that flows through all, right? That gives the tree its ability to have sap and reach its roots out and grow its limbs up, and the energy that like the life energy that enables the fish's gills to just like expand and contract in the water. Like, this is like just such a beautiful thing to think about, that all of life in its own way has breath, and yet divinity chose to breathe directly into the human. I just really get excited about that thought, and whether or not you take the Bible to be something that you value or feel is real or true or anything like that, that's fine. That's on you. Whatever resonates with you is for you. And so looking at it however is comfortable for you and aligns with you is the best in all situations. But returning back to kind of that energy, dealing with ancient texts and whatnot. In the Hebrew tradition, the name for God is Yahweh, and a lot of times in ancient texts they were not to even speak the name, and they would just write dashes or characters, to represent, but they weren't really even allowed to speak the name of God because it was so sacred and so precious to them. And it's pretty popular that the most common name for God written in the Bible is Yahweh. And this is really, really interesting because the Hebrew scholars also believe that this is the inhale, Yah, and exhale, Hey, and Yahweh. Like this energy is like the thought of this energy is really beautiful to me, that like God is so close, he's in every breath, and yet he's so, like, from this perspective, he's so intensely amazing that we can't even speak his name. But yet we are in every breath, kind of. I don't know how to describe that paradox, but when I came across that little tidbit of information somewhere in my breathwork journeys, I was just like mind blown at this really interesting perspective and take on the breath specifically. But one of the most precious things to me is about breath work is just my ability to return back to my being. It's really hard right now to live in our being. We have so much distraction. I mean, so much distraction from, like thousands, including millions of TV shows to ingest or other said things. And YouTube on its own has like a Google amount of stuff to watch and take up our time. And then there's, the hustle and bustle of life and work and the energy of like go, 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 do, achieve. And it's so hard often to just stop and be with ourselves, like to just kind of settle into the fact that we are flesh and blood and how that feels. And I'm just really thankful for the sacredness of returning to my breath in those moments. Today, for instance, I just woofed up the anxiety. I don't even know. Nothing was going on. There was no reason for it. And there I went up into anxiety world. And I was like living 3 feet above my head, worrying about stuff that doesn't even exist. And I just, okay, stop. We're going to have some breath. Just a minute. And did a little mini being present with Patricia session. And that helped. And then I added some movement in, and that also helped. But I'm just so thankful for the sacredness of breath and how it helps me work through my parenting trauma, through my childhood trauma, my relationship struggles with beloveds in my life, and just giving people grace. And yeah, I'm really thankful for the breath. I'm really thankful that we can alter our nervous system functioning with just a few inhales and exhales, and we can relax our entire being consciously, choose to consciously relax our bodies, relax our nervous systems, deaccelerate any tension, stress, or anxieties with breath, with our simple thing that we have with us all the time. This is really, really profound, and it's something that we often miss. So I have never taken a breathwork course or breathwork class, so to speak, but I've done breathwork through various methods of exploring myself, exploring trauma, and different other things. So I've done it in quite a safe container, and I think that has also helped my journey with it, because I feel like a lot of times when I mention breathwork to other people, it's like, hey, you might enjoy. I feel like it's met with a lot of I don't know how to do, and it's scary, and I'm going to get it wrong. And yes, all those are very valid. And I think if I hadn't met it in the container space that I had, or that I'm remembering that I had met it in, which was, I think, it's a parenting class of some sort, so to speak. It's a online course, and it was really, really, really helpful for me to process my childhood grief. I'm still processing that, and my parenting struggles, which they're not huge, but it helps to have help. And so to have met it in the container that I did, and to have guided loving support was really, really, really helpful. And there's so much different play options out there for breath. There's breath of love, breath of peace, breath of abundance, breath of joy, breath of life. There's all these various breath work types and models. There's the rebirthing breath, the breath of fire. There's all sorts of breaths in yoga to get our prana, or our life energy flowing, our chi. Tai Chi and all the martial arts deal heavily with the breath. You do a lot of vocalization and coursing of the breath through the body, because it's so powerful for moving energy, and emotions are energy. And so me processing childhood trauma is a lot of energy that comes up, and definitely needs to be exhaled and returned to the earth in a compost fashion, sometimes of aggression, sometimes of other things. But thankfully I found breath work, and this is such a sacred thing for me, sacred nectar in my life, that I am very thankful for. So how I feel like this ties into the next thing I wanted to talk about, which was cooking with love, cooking with devotion, cooking with gratitude, infusing your food with elements of bliss and delight, and how beautiful that has been for me. So somewhere in the past, I would say 3 years, started to realize this beautiful energy in the kitchen when I was cooking. There's something very special about making food for your people that you love. And putting happy, beautiful energy into it. And often, we get in the kitchen. I mean, I would say if you're like a mom, a lot of times you would get in the kitchen if you're actually making food for your family with, real ingredients, real food. And you're just thinking, I gotta feed my family. I gotta get this food out there. Everybody's gonna be hungry. They need to eat. And so it's like a bang, 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 smash it out, get it done. And a lot of times you're just like, in your head, you're thinking about your day, you're, fumigating about whatever discussion you had with somebody, or you're, processing the future, whatever you have to do the next day. So there's like a million things that could be going through your head in this cooking space. And I know growing up from watching my mom how often this space was just filled with quite literally chaos. Like, it was just a chaotic energy in the kitchen. And we ate, and it was, nourishing to our bodies on a nutrient level. But this unspoken factor of energy going into the food, I feel plays a huge role in the digestibility of the food and the feel of the meal and the digestion process in the other person. I don't know how to explain it. I don't have any science for it. I don't know anything much other than just personal experience with this. I'm sure there's many other people who have had this experience, or maybe there's even people online who talk about cooking with devotion or cooking with love, or I don't know. I'm not online. I don't want to be. But I'm sure it's out there because I'm not the only person who's considered this or thought of it. And it's just really precious to think about how our thoughts and our breath and our life energy gets poured or transferred into that which our hands are creating. And when you're cooking in the kitchen, you're creating a beautiful, nutrient-rich, hopefully nourishing meal or snack even. But the element of love that goes into this is also as much of an ingredient. I just feel this really strongly, and it feels like it's a really sacred thing to me to get into the kitchen and pour love into the food for my beloveds, the people I cherish and treasure and cook for. So yeah, I don't do it as often as I would like, to be honest. And it kind of frustrates me on some level, but our current living situation is slightly different than it has been at any time in my life. And so I don't cook often. But when I do, I try to make it really intensely love-filled impact with happy, beautiful energy, because I feel like now more than ever we need that energy in our lives. There's a lot of negative, there's a lot of dark, there's a lot of soul-crushing energy out there. And I think every little bit helps, including speaking love into your food, singing over every ingredient, giving gratitude for the farmer who grew it, the truck that transported it to the packaging people who put it back on a different truck to go to a store, the people who sorted it in the warehouse to get to the store, just giving thanks and gratitude for every little mile and journey that carrot had, or whatever the ingredient is. Hopefully it's stuff that's mostly local. That's our ideal world, and I know for so many people that's not a feasible option, whether you just don't have a farmer near you or you don't have a farmer's market. And I know some people feel like money is a factor in that as well. Personally, I find that my farmer's market is cheaper than the stores, largely, but I know that is not everybody's experience. But yeah, just being so thankful for every little journey that green bean has had, or that carrot, or the beef, or the pork, or the chicken, the life of the chicken, that it got energy from the sun, and it pecked at things, and now you're eating it, and it's like life energy to be thankful for. That creation at one point had breath in it, and now it is moving into you to give you life. And you will build hair cells and fingernails and skin cells from that. And so just pouring love into that food as you're making it is then in return pouring it into you and or your people that you love, whoever you're cooking for. Anyway, I just feel like it's so tied because it has to do with our breath, like what we speak, that which we let out of our mouths. There's a beautiful saying, life and death are in the power of the tongue, and we definitely have power to speak life, to speak expansion, or to speak death, to speak contraction. We can easily make somebody curl up and shrivel with our words, or we can bless them and make them feel open and abundant and blessed. And of course, we want to do all of that with sincerity, and we want our hearts to be true when we're speaking those things. And so a lot of times for me, I have to, shift my mind before I practice this. And so, again, breath work, breath play, being present in my body comes in to factor here. And, on that same note, I wasn't going to include this. I think I was possibly saving it for a different episode, but speaking love into our water when we're drinking it is really, really important too. I mean, we know that science has proven that water holds memory and can hold memory in its cells. The cells of the water, the molecules of the water hold memory, so to speak. And like the human is made up of 70% water by mass or something like that. And so we're largely water. We drink water all the time. It's something that we're ingesting pretty frequently, hopefully. Hopefully you're drinking adequate amounts of water. Possibly you drink other things. But of course, water is really essential for life. In fact, life on this planet would not exist without water. And we could not exist without water. Just speaking breath of love and using your breath, I should say, to speak love into your water, and using your breath to speak love into your food, and using your breath to speak love into your beloveds. And I know that that is hard for some of us. I mean, it is hard. I mean, we're human, so we're not in every moment going to want to speak love into the people around us. Sometimes we're going to be feeling like we want to rip their throat out because we have egos. And a big inhale and a big exhale can help with that kind of energy. And I'm so thankful for the breath. And I'm so thankful for the medicine and the sacred nectar of the breath in all situations. It can, if you think about laughter, right? Laughter is just like taking in so much air, and even yawning, a symbol of relaxation. It's just like really in taking air, and it's a really really beautiful thing to be connected to your breath in every moment. And maybe even not every moment, but as often as you can remember, to be conscious of it, to be in a relationship with it, to let it move you and evolve you and grow you as you play with it, I think is really, really beautiful. And taking it, into different situations and circumstances and whatnot. So it's really sacred to me to be able to breathe life into my beloved's food as well, and to nourish my own being on such a deep cell level. Our cells they have memory too, just like water. Every little DNA cell holds memory, and we know when we're good to ourselves, or we know when we treat ourselves like the stepchild that we never wanted. We know this. Our bodies know how we feel about us. And so many of us are really frustrated with being in our own bodies or in our own skins. And our body knows this, and our body feels this. And so maybe trying to reorient our minds around. A lot of times people say, reorient your mind around your thoughts toward yourself. Well, that's not a bad idea, but I find that's actually quite hard because I just think the thoughts without being aware that I'm thinking them, and then I'm like, oh, that was really negative energy in my space. And so instead of being able to catch it all the time, I try to just be abundant in the energy of love and just blessing and being thankful and using my breath and my voice to express that to others, to express that to the elements around me, like water and food, and to express it to the cells of my being as well. So this is the sacred nectar little bits that I wanted to talk about today for me. The things that I'm really, 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 really thankful for, and just wanted to give a presence to and talk about. So I hope you enjoyed this, and were in your own way nourished and sparked interest to develop more sacred nectar for your own space of your own kind, right? I think we're all just little pieces of a puzzle growing and helping each other to expand and be love in the earth. So thank you for listening to the Sacred Nectar podcast and being present on this journey. And I hope you really, really enjoyed this episode. Hopefully the next few episodes will be filled with guests and me having conversations with people that I find to be filled with sacred nectar and just processing their energy through this space. I hope this episode is digested well and nourishes your being, and it's delightful, that it's nectar to you, that it's a beautiful libation for your soul. And with that, be blessed, and I'll see you again next episode. Thank you so much. I just wanted to add a little bit to this episode to talk about a few things. First, as I was editing this, or, getting it ready to post online, I just realized there's so many words that I would have chose differently. And I kind of want to correct one thing that I said. I said I breathed wrong. I don't know that there's actually a wrong way to breathe. To be breathing is good. So I think I would prefer the word incorrectly or in a contracted way. And anyway, that was just something that really kind of like stuck out to me that I thought was important to mention and fix for my own being to feel comfortable. And also, I mentioned I'm not online. Well, if you're hearing this, you're probably hearing it online, so I am online. But I'm not on social media, and that's often what I think of when I think of online. So fixing that as well, just to make a clarification there. And I also have a website, which most likely found my podcast through my website, because that's pretty much, as far as I know, the only way that most people access it. I also wanted to kind of like speak into my living situation that I mentioned that I'm experiencing, and just talk about the podcast itself. The absolute gratitude and thank you for listening to the end and for your patience through this journey with me. And the sound quality is a little bit different this time, and that's okay, because I'm just going to let it be as it is. But I am currently living in a tent, and living in a tent, I don't have everything with me. So I don't have my old microphone with me. Also, my computer crashed, so I don't have my computer. I'm using my phone, and this also creates a different quality. So thank you for being present through that and entering this space with me in that energy. So I wanted to give presence to that and just let y'all know I appreciate your joining me, even though maybe the sound quality was a little bit poppy or harsh at some times. I hope not too harsh, but the main segment that you just listened to was recorded on the 6th, I believe, 6th new moon of 2022, and it was at night, so hopefully you got to enjoy that atmosphere. And this little segment is recorded the following day in the midday, just so you can enter my surroundings in your own way. Anyway, thank you again for your presence in this space with me, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I look forward to our next little bit of time together. So my podcast is the Sacred Nectar Podcast, and my website then can be found at sacrednectarofpatria.com. And that's how you can reach me. I was processing how to close this episode because, well, I can't access my computer files because they're gone, and I don't have the song that I shared in the first one anymore. And so I'm gonna have to make a new one and let my creativity flow. And so I was thinking about what to offer in this space for the closing, and I thought it would be so perfect to share with you the blessing that I speak into my water, since we were talking about breath and breathing love energy into that which you ingest. And so I wanted to offer this love blessing that I share with my water, and I bless my water and speak love into it, and that is this. Love, gratitude, blessing.